The Johnson family's cozy living room basked in the early morning sunlight. The air was filled with the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee and the soft chatter of a typical Sunday morning. Sarah, with her warm smile and nurturing demeanor, was at the heart of the activity, ensuring everyone had what they needed for breakfast. "How about a picnic next weekend?" Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she set down a plate of scrambled eggs. David looked up from his newspaper, a twinkle of interest in his eyes. "That sounds like a great idea, Sarah. We've been cooped up inside for too long." Emily, their teenage daughter, glanced up from her phone, her usual reserved expression replaced with a hint of curiosity. "Where would we go?" she asked, already envisioning the perfect shots she could capture with her camera. Max, the youngest, was practically bouncing in his seat. "Can we bring a frisbee, Dad?" he asked eagerly, his enthusiasm contagious. Sarah smiled at the lively response. "Let's figure out the details over breakfast," she said, sitting down with her own plate. "We can decide on the location and who will do what." The family gathered around the table, the morning sun casting a warm glow over their faces. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of anticipation, a welcome change from the routine weekends they had grown accustomed to. David folded his newspaper and leaned forward. "How about the local sports field?" he suggested. "It's got plenty of space, and we could play some games." Emily shook her head, her artistic side taking over. "I think Riverside Park would be better. It's quieter and much more beautiful. I could get some amazing photos there." A lively debate ensued, each family member voicing their preferences. Max, swayed by his sister's enthusiasm, sided with Emily. "Riverside Park sounds cool. We could explore the trails and maybe even see some wildlife." Sarah listened, her nurturing nature evident as she considered everyone's opinions. "All right," she said finally, her voice calm and decisive. "Riverside Park it is. It's a beautiful spot and will give us a chance to enjoy nature." The decision made, Sarah pulled out a notepad and began to assign tasks. "I'll handle the food. We'll need sandwiches, snacks, and something sweet for dessert." David nodded, his competitive spirit showing. "I'll take care of the sports equipment. Frisbee, badminton, and maybe even a soccer ball." Emily's eyes lit up with excitement. "I'll bring my camera and document the day. It'll be a great addition to my photography project." Max, eager to contribute, piped up. "I'll help with packing the essentials. Blankets, sunscreen, and bug spray." As they planned, the sense of unity and teamwork grew stronger. Each family member had a role to play, and the anticipation for the picnic built steadily. Just as they were wrapping up their discussion, Emily's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at the screen and her expression changed to one of concern. "Guys, I just checked the local events calendar. The same day we're planning our picnic, there's a festival at Riverside Park. It's the Millfield Spring Spectacular." A moment of silence followed her announcement. The excitement dimmed slightly as the realization sank in. Sarah's brow furrowed, and she glanced at David, who shrugged, trying to remain optimistic. "Well, that's a twist," David said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "But it doesn't have to ruin our plans." Sarah nodded slowly, her mind already working on a solution. "Let's have a quick family council," she suggested. "We need to decide whether to stick with our plan or choose another location." The family gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. Sarah took the lead, her voice calm and reassuring. "I think we should stick with Riverside Park. The festival could be a lot of fun, and it's a chance to be part of the community." David agreed, seeing the potential for a fun-filled day. The festival might actually add to the experience. "We can still have our picnic and enjoy the festivities." Emily, always the observer, nodded thoughtfully. "It could be interesting to photograph the festival too. It might make for some great shots." Max, ever the adventurer, was quick to agree. "Yeah, let's do it. It'll be awesome. With a renewed sense of excitement and a hint of apprehension about the unknown, the family resolved to embrace the day, no matter what it brought. The chapter ended with a collective sense of adventure and the promise of a memorable family outing. The Johnson family's SUV rolled into the bustling Riverside Park, the air filled with the sounds of laughter, music, and chatter from the Millfield Spring Spectacular Festival. Brightly colored stalls lined the pathways, and the aroma of food wafted through the air, mingling with the fresh scent of blooming flowers. The park was more crowded than they had anticipated, but the energy was infectious. "Wow, this is busier than I thought it would be," David remarked as he parked the car. "But look at all these fun activities." Sarah nodded, her initial apprehension melting away. "It looks wonderful. Let's find a good spot to set up." The family navigated through the throngs of festival-goers, searching for a quiet spot near the river. After a few minutes of weaving through the crowds, they found a relatively peaceful area, albeit not as secluded as they had hoped. They spread out their blankets near an elderly couple who were sitting comfortably in their lawn chairs, watching the festival from a distance. "Hello there," Sarah greeted the couple as they began unpacking their picnic supplies. "Lovely day, isn't it?" The elderly woman looked up and smiled warmly. "Indeed it is. I'm Mrs. Archer, and this is my husband, Tom. We've been coming to this festival for years. It's a tradition for us." Sarah's eyes widened in recognition. "Wait, you're Mr. and Mrs. Archer? You were friends with my parents." "I'm Sarah Johnson, Sarah Thompson, back then." Mrs. Archer's face lit up with surprise and delight. "Sarah. Of course, I remember you. How wonderful to see you again. Your parents were dear friends of ours." As Sarah and the Archers reminisced about old times, the rest of the family set up the picnic area. Emily was busy capturing the vibrant scenes of the festival with her camera, while Max eagerly unpacked the sports equipment, his eyes scanning the park for potential playmates. "Dad, can we play frisbee now?" Max asked, holding up the bright blue disc. "Absolutely, buddy," David replied with a grin. "Let's show these folks how it's done." David and Max started a game of frisbee, their playful competition soon attracting the attention of a few other children nearby. It wasn't long before a spontaneous mini-tournament began, with laughter and shouts filling the air. Max's initial disappointment about the crowded park vanished as he made new friends, his natural sociability shining through. Emily, meanwhile, wandered around, capturing candid moments of the festival. She paused occasionally to take detailed shots of the flowers and the river, her passion for photography evident in her focused expressions. When she returned to the picnic spot, she found Mrs. Archer telling a story about Millfield's past, and Emily couldn't resist the opportunity to learn more. "Would you mind if I interviewed you for a school project?" Emily asked, her shyness giving way to genuine interest. "I'm working on a piece about our community's history." Mrs. Archer beamed. "I'd be delighted, dear. Ask away." As Emily and Mrs. Archer delved into stories of old Millfield, Sarah laid out the picnic spread, her gourmet sandwiches and homemade snacks eliciting appreciative comments from everyone. David and Max took a break from their games, drawn by the delicious smells. "This looks amazing, Mom," Max said, grabbing a sandwich eagerly. "Thanks for making all this." Sarah smiled, her nurturing side evident as she fussed over everyone's plates. "I'm glad you like it. Let's enjoy our meal." The family settled down to eat, the lively atmosphere of the festival providing a cheerful backdrop. They chatted and laughed, sharing stories and enjoying each other's company. Just as they were relaxing into the day, dark clouds began to gather overhead. "Uh-oh," David said, glancing up at the sky. "Looks like rain's coming." No sooner had he spoken than a light drizzle began to fall, quickly escalating into a heavier shower. The festival-goers scrambled to pack up their belongings and seek shelter, the once vibrant park now a scene of hurried activity. "Quick, everyone, pack up," Sarah instructed, her voice calm and authoritative despite the sudden change in weather. The Johnsons hastily gathered their things, laughter mixing with the sounds of the festival as they sought cover under a large tree. The rain showed no signs of letting up, and the family huddled together, considering their options. What now? Max asked, his disappointment clear. David wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders. How about we visit the local history museum? It's nearby, and we can continue our day indoors. The suggestion was met with nods of agreement. Despite the unexpected turn of events, the family's spirits remained high. They piled back into the SUV, damp but undeterred, and headed towards the museum, ready to embrace whatever the day had in store for them next. The Johnson family arrived at the local history museum, seeking refuge from the rain. The transition from the bustling park to the calm, serene museum was a welcome change. The museum's grand entrance, with its historical architecture and quiet atmosphere, provided a stark contrast to the lively festival they had just left behind. As they stepped inside, they were greeted by the friendly museum docent, who offered them a warm smile. Welcome to the Millfield History Museum. Can I interest you in a guided tour of our exhibits? That sounds wonderful, Sarah replied, grateful for the opportunity to turn their day around. The family agreed, and the docent began leading them through the various exhibits. The first exhibit detailed the early days of Millfield, from its founding as a small trading post to its development into a bustling suburb. The children were drawn to the interactive displays, which featured models of the original town layout and artifacts from the early settlers. Max was particularly fascinated by the old tools and equipment used by the pioneers. Look at this, Dad! Max exclaimed, pointing to a display of antique farming tools. Imagine having to use these every day. David chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. It's amazing how much things have changed, isn't it? Emily, meanwhile, was engrossed in taking photos of the exhibits, her camera capturing the intricate details of the artifacts. She found herself particularly drawn to a series of old photographs depicting Millfield's annual Spring Spectacular Festival from decades past. The black and white images showcased the town's rich history and vibrant community spirit. As they moved through the museum, the docents shared fascinating anecdotes about Millfield's evolution, highlighting the contributions of various community members, including the Archers. Sarah listened intently, memories of her own childhood in Millfield flooding back. In the middle of the tour, they encountered a temporary exhibit featuring photos and stories from past Millfield Spring Spectacular festivals. To their surprise and delight, they spotted a photo of a young Sarah with her parents at one of the early festivals, taken by none other than Mr. Archer. Look, Mom! Emily pointed excitedly at the photo. That's you. Sarah smiled, her eyes misting with nostalgia. Yes, that's me. I remember that day. It was one of the best festivals we ever had. The discovery connected their current experience with Sarah's cherished childhood memories, creating a sense of continuity and belonging. The family lingered by the exhibit, sharing stories and reflecting on the day's unexpected turns. After exploring the exhibits, the family joined a guided tour that provided deeper insights into the town's history. The docents' engaging storytelling brought the past to life, making the history tangible and memorable. Max was particularly captivated by the section on local natural history, which included a display of preserved specimens of native wildlife. Did you know Millfield used to be home to these birds? Max asked, pointing to a display of colorful birds that once inhabited the area. No, I didn't, David replied, genuinely impressed. It's incredible to think about all the changes this place has seen. As the visit wound down, the family found a quiet corner in the museum's cafe to discuss what they had learned and seen. They ordered hot cocoa and snacks, the warmth of the beverages a welcome comfort after the chilly rain. What was everyone's favorite part of the day? Sarah asked, sipping her cocoa. Max, ever enthusiastic, was the first to answer. I love the interactive displays and learning about the old tools. It's so cool to see how people used to live. Emily smiled, holding her camera. I think finding that photo of you, Mom, was my favorite. It made me feel more connected to our town's history. I'm definitely going to include some of these insights in my photography blog. David nodded, his expression thoughtful. I enjoyed the whole experience, especially seeing the kids so engaged with the history. It's important to know where we come from. Sarah looked around at her family, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. I'm glad we came here. Even though our plans changed, today turned out to be really special. The conversation revealed how the day's events had influenced their perspectives, fostering a deeper appreciation for their community and each other. They shared their favorite moments, from the festival to the museum, each story adding to the rich tapestry of their family's memories. As they finished their snacks and prepared to leave, Sarah suggested, "How about we make this a tradition? Whenever there's a festival or special event in town, we can visit the museum afterward and learn more about our community." The family agreed enthusiastically, the idea of creating new traditions and exploring their town's history together appealing to everyone. They left the museum with a renewed sense of unity and anticipation for future family outings. On the drive home, the Johnsons reflected on the day's unexpected turns, from the disrupted picnic to the enriching museum visit, and how these experiences brought them closer. The rain had stopped, and the evening sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over Millfield. "That was a great day," Max said, looking out the window at the familiar streets of their town. "I can't wait for our next adventure." "Me too," Emily agreed, glancing at her camera. "And I'm excited to start working on my blog." David smiled, feeling content. "Today reminded me that the best memories often come from the unexpected. I'm grateful for our family and these experiences." Sarah nodded, her heart full. "We're lucky to have each other and this wonderful town. Here's to many more adventures together." The narrative closed on a note of contentment and anticipation for future family outings, encapsulating the themes of unity, adaptability, and the enduring value of family bonds. The Johnsons realized that despite the changes to their initial plan, the day had brought them closer together, teaching them that the best memories often come from unexpected experiences. They looked forward to more adventures, symbolizing their growth as a family and as individuals.